And then they're like, oh, hey, by the way, you haven't slept. You're on beer number like 87 for the day.
Right.
You know, oh, by the way, you got to go talk in front of all these people. And you're like, uh-huh. What?
I'm in love with the good life. Can't give it up. Make it to the top. Keep climbing. I wanna live it up. The good life. I'm coming up. I'm coming up. The good life. Good life. Oh, good life. Good life. Good life.
Boom, coming in hot, Chitchy. What's going on, brother?
What's up, brother? We got a lot going on. Still in the free agency mode. Everybody's talking about everything. There's one fan base, though, that's pretty funny right now that is urging their ownership after the World Series to start figuring out how to fix maybe something that may have been a mistake, because Red Sox fans are so happy for Mookie Betts, but so upset to see him do it in blue this year, man.
They actually should be upset. You're the Red Sox, and you let Mookie Betts, who was the top two players in the game besides Trout at the time, walk at 26 years old. That's a bad one. You can't skimp and try to save money here and there. Like, you have a once in a generational type player that's a winner, that is built for that ballpark and came up a Boston Red Sox. You could not let him walk. So bad job. By the Red Sox there letting Mookie Betts walk. And good job by the Dodgers ponying up the money to pay him and lock him up forever.
Oh, my God. The guy can play every single position on a field and bowl 300 games. He can probably sing really well. And he has a good podcast. Jeez Louise. All right. Well, we do have something to uplift your Red Sox fandom, don't we, Sean? Who are we going to talk about today?
Yeah, this is a great episode, man, with Johnny Lester. I mean, Jon Lester is a legendary, obviously brought a couple championships to Boston, was one of their big dogs to do it. I played with John in 08, which was basically his rookie year in the big leagues. He pitched in 07, the World Series, but I played with him in 08. What a great guy. But he also broke the curse out there in Chicago. Theo Epstein came over from Boston. One of his big moves was he needed pitching. Johnny Lester was the big free agent acquisition that offseason, and he went out and got him. And next thing you know, he won a championship in Boston, and he won a championship and broke the curse in 2016, came in Game 7 too, to really close the deal there. So, what an unbelievable legacy and unbelievable career Johnny Lester had, and we think an unbelievable interview here in inside the mayor's office with Jon Lester.
Yep, here it is, folks. Enjoy.
Boom, Chase. We're back. We're back at it, brother.
Yeah, I realize you only have friends who are all-stars.
Dude, I only hang out with all-star friends, bro. Okay, that's my all-star friends and you are the only people I hang out with.
There
so
you
that's a good thing, dude. But listen, this is going to be a good one today. You know, it's funny. We always talk about this, and I think we say it every week. Whenever you bring your buddies in on these shows, you actually have to research them. And when you start to research them, you go, "Holy shit, these guys are pretty good players." You know what I mean? You don't know them exactly as players. You know them more as like teammates and friends. But this guy, how about this? 16 years in the show, 200 wins, 117 losses. That's legit right there, okay? Over 600 winning percentage, 3.66 career ERA with almost 2,500 strikeouts, 5-time All-Star, 3 times World Series champ. Right? NLCS MVP 2016, NL wins leader 2018, threw a no-hitter that I was part of May 19, 2008. Hutch Award winner, which I didn't know. So was I. This guy doesn't know I'm the Hutch Award winner 1999, baby. Let's go. One of the best postseason pitchers in the history of the game. Right? Pitched the opening game of the playoff series 12 times. That means you're reliable and you're a badass, right?
Yep.
He's probably being so uncomfortable that I'm saying all this stuff because I know Johnny's like the most humble guy ever, but I'm going to keep going because I got a couple more. 30 or more starts 12 times. One of 9 lefties with 200 wins, 600 winning percentage, and a career ERA under 4. 6 are in the Hall of Fame, and the 7th one is CC Sabathia. So, dude, I'm going to bring him in because he's probably having a heart attack right now. He has too many accolades. Let's bring in my man, Johnny Lester. Johnny, what's up, brother?
What up, fellas? How we doing?
Good, man. Did you know you were that good, Johnny?
No. Oh man.
Oh man, of course you did. One day, tell your kids. I know my. Do your kids remember you at all playing? Like, does Hudson remember at all? Or
He does. I mean, and Walker does too, to a certain
Yeah.
degree. But yeah, man, I mean, I'm sure you know the feeling like when they tell you that their favorite player is a guy in your, another guy in your clubhouse or another guy
Right.
across the way. It's really bad when they say it's somebody across the way that you can't stand. That's the one that I was like, no, he can't, you're not allowed to root for him. No.
No, you don't like him. You don't like him.
But no, man, I think HUD remembers a lot more of Boston.
Yeah.
And then obviously Chicago is so fresh in his mind, but Walker only remembers Chicago, and Cy, really doesn't know much. I mean, she's just happy that I'm home more than anything.
Right, dude. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. How's that been, brother? I mean, 16 years obviously on the road. I know exactly. I feel like I walked away too, because my kids were 6, 5, and 1 at the time when I left Boston in 08 was my last year. But I just remember the grind of the years that, towards the end. I think when you're younger, you're like, let's go, let's go, let's go. But as you get older, how is it being home? Are you enjoying it? And also, why did you retire, brother? Because you still had 28 starts last year. You were still putting up some numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as you know, man, it gets harder to leave, and then their schedule starts becoming more important than your schedule, and which is how it should be, like as your kids get older, they need to start being kids. And we had held off so long from letting them play sports because we knew, well, our big thing, just talking about it, is if you're going to play, you're going to be there. You're not going to be, in Chicago for a month and miss all of your guys' practices and then show up and expect to play. Like, that's not the way, you commit to not only play, but you commit to your teammates too, to be there. So, that became harder. I didn't see him as much, you're in that hotel room or whatever by yourself a lot longer. And it gets hard, man. So that was part of the decision. The preparation got harder. I didn't have, thank God I didn't have anything major I ever really had to deal with, through my career, but just those little things became bigger. I couldn't work out like I wanted to, which then it makes you kind of feel like in the back of your mind, am I doing everything I can to be ready every 5 days for these guys? And, the game is changing. It's younger, it's faster, it's harder. My big thing that I always talked about was I wanted to be able to hand my jersey over. I didn't want somebody to take that from me and tell me that, I couldn't do this or, have to prove myself to make a team in spring training and, all that stuff. So there was just a lot of things. Like I wanted it to be my decision, not somebody else's. I think that's a big thing that really kind of hung over my head. And, it was just time, man. I mean, it's been fun. It was awesome. And it's actually been, really good so far for me. I've had little moments here and there that I'm sure my wife would tell you where she's like, hey, you need to go, do something, get out of the house for a minute. But other than that, man, it's been good.
One of the things for me, Johnny, was like, for all those years, you have such a routine, even in the off season, like, okay, I'm going to wake up at this time. I'm going to go work out. I'm going to eat lunch and blah, blah, in the off season. Then you get to the season. You're like, okay, spring training starts. Here's my schedule, and then all of a sudden, I know for me, this is my experience. I remember one day I called, I don't even know who the hell I called. Nobody. I'm like, I'm retiring. You know what I mean? But I remember it came across the ESPN ticker and it said Sean Casey retires. And I remember standing in my living room looking around going, what the hell do I do now? Like, I'm like, and it was more like, what's my routine now? Like, what's the routine? Are you finding that a little bit? Like, man, like, what do I do with my days?
Well, I think when the kids get out of school and now that baseball's done for them, I think that'll change. Right now I still have the routine of, getting them to school. We got stuff we got to do during the day, pick them up from school, homework, practice, games, whatever it needs to be. So I have that structure that you're talking about right now.
Right.
I think when they get out of school and, when it gets hotter down here where I won't be able to go to the farm as much just because there's not as much to do or whatever, that might get a little harder. But I've been so wrapped up with, driving these kids around and making sure that they get to their stuff and trying to be a part of that, that I really haven't. I mean, I think I've maybe watched a total of like 18 innings of baseball since I've been home, so I miss the camaraderie side of it, but I've been able to get that in certain areas. I played in a golf tournament in Dallas and got to see, the Beckett's, the Millars, the McCanns, and we got to have our dinners and, kind of have that stuff that you miss. So that kind of held me over for a little bit. So man, I think when summer comes, it might get a little weird, but we've had a good run so far. So I hope that continues.
What about you, Johnny, with your kids? You got Hudson, I believe, is 12. Walker's 9. Is that, do I have that right?
Well, close. Well, Hudson will be 12 at the end of July, and then Walker will be 9 at the end of September.
Okay, and then you have Sai, too, obviously, is your daughter. So, what about you now as a dad, brother? Now you get a chance to kind of be with them when they're playing sports. What advice do you have for them as a dad now that you're there all the time?
Well, it's funny because I try not to be the baseball dad, I try to be just dad. I want him to know, that well, I've told him, I said, man, I really don't care what you do. I don't care if you strike out every at bat. I don't, that's not what makes me proud of you. What I care more about, and we had this conversation about halfway through the season, is your hustle and your attitude. I'm like, if you stop hustling, that's going to make me more upset than you striking out every time. Or making an error in the field or whatever. You give good effort, you cheer your teammates on. That's all I care about. So that's what I've been trying to instill into them. Obviously I know I wasn't a hitter. So anytime I talk to my kids about hitting, they look at me like I got 3 heads. They're like,
hey, you went deep a couple of times in the show though, bro.
Well, yeah. I mean, they did see that, but you know what I mean? So I've been trying to outsource that, kind of push them, if Hudson started to ask questions about pitching, it's kind of interested him a little bit. And then Walker will play kid pitch next year. So they've asked questions, and all that. But like I said, man, I'm just trying to be dad, just trying to play catch in the backyard, throw batting practice when I need to, and, all that stuff. So all the other stuff I think will kind of fall into line as they get a little older and kind of figure it out.
Takes care of itself. Well, dude, I want to rewind a little bit, brother, because I got a chance to know your parents a little bit, and I know you come from great stock. You know what I mean? Just the way you carried yourself, Johnny, the teammate that you were to everybody and throughout your whole career, how accountable you were. I mean, just even looking at your numbers and the starts, and you even talking about it now, being accountable to your teammates. Can you talk a little bit about your upbringing? What was it like growing up in the Lester household? Your dad was a police officer. Your mom worked, for the roads for Pierce County, doing some hard labor stuff. I met your mom at your wedding. I was like, damn. I was like, she's the most jacked person here. I was like, I think she'd kill anybody. If anybody crossed anybody, you'd have Mrs. Lester dominating people. So what was it like growing up in your house, man, with 2 hardworking, parents?
I think you said it, man. I mean, I don't want to say it was hard because, I mean, I don't want to say gave me everything that I needed to do what I did as a kid and end up turning into a baseball player. But they provided me with every opportunity to succeed. I think the big thing that my dad and my mom always tried to make sure is I was accountable. I was accountable for being at the practices, being at the games, my schoolwork, and just as a human being, you have to treat everybody with respect. And, until they break that, you treat everybody with respect. And that's something my dad always talked about. They were hard on me. They made me, work hard. I'm sure I had the same talks with my dad after games that a lot of guys did, as far as effort and attitude and not yelling at the umpires, which really didn't work out too well later. that talk never stuck with me very long. But no, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing, man. It's just being accountable, and I always tried to be accountable for each day that I was at the field. Pitching is so unique compared to hitting because, you guys get to do it every day. There's people see the work that gets put into it. Whereas, when we throw our bullpens, nobody's there. Nobody wants to pay admission to go watch a bullpen. They're watching batting practice. So, people have to assume that you're doing your work, and I try to be, accountable for that. And that's definitely something that my parents instilled in me, is the work ethic and and all that stuff. So, they definitely made me, not only who I am as a person, but as a baseball player for sure.
What about I always say, attraction, not promotion sometimes, as far as man, when you watch, I remember my dad started his own company in high school, and I just remember the hours of grinding. I was like, God, this guy is still, the lights are still on downstairs. He's still, working his ass off. Your mom doing what she did that, was that kind of one of the things where you watch them, man, I can't believe my mom's doing, the hard labor that she does.
Yeah. And I think I really didn't see it until I got older and appreciated it. When you're a kid, you just, hey, my dad does this, my mom does that. You know what I mean? You don't really understand. And kind of the same thing with where my kids are with baseball. You don't really understand until you get older and appreciate what was there. But yeah, I mean, to look back, as I got older, I appreciated what she did. And I tried to, hey, Mom, you need to move on from this. I understand you want to get your 30 years, you want to get your retirement and all this stuff. But I mean, you're getting beat up, this is tough. And she's like, no, I'm not letting them win. And, just that work ethic and, wow. Going to work every day, no matter how she felt. And same thing with my dad. My dad did the same thing for however long, the military and then the police force and, seeing them get up every single day, take me to school and go put in however many hours they put in, and then be able to come home, feed me and take me to 3 different practices, and 2 different games and do that and never complained and did it. And, that just, that really sticks with me. And I, obviously am very grateful for everything and, afforded me the opportunity to be a kid and get to play a bunch of sports and get to do a lot of awesome things. And yeah, man, I mean, I think looking back on it, you wish as a kid you could appreciate it a little bit more, but right. As an adult, you definitely appreciate everything your parents do for you.
Who was the biggest influence in your life outside of your parents?
Man, a lot of when you leave at 18, I'm sure this goes for, guys that go into the military and other guys that are people in general that take jobs where they got to travel at a young age and kind of figure things out. It took to a lot of coaches, I was very fortunate to get, I know, how it is, man, in the minor leagues, these coaches can have 1 or 2 agendas, either to make you better or to try to put their name next to your name in case you make it, yes. I want to thank these 3 coaches and then hopefully they get a promotion off of those guys, so I was very fortunate to meet a lot of great guys. Ralph Truel was one of them, that at an early age really helped me hone a lot of things, with my craft. And then, through the minor leagues, some other guys, but, I think too, at the time of my life and then the stuff I went through, Tito was a big part of that. With my cancer stuff and getting back to the big leagues and understanding the business and the human side of the game. I always felt like they had my best interest at heart when they made decisions, and that's hard to believe in a business like that. It's hard to, but Tito always did that. And I think he was a big one. And then, John Farrell at an early age for me too, right when I get into the big leagues, kind of really helping me hone my skills and kind of being there for me, being a young guy and on a veteran team and listening to me gripe about all the old guys treat me like shit. And, I had to take beers on the plane and sing and all this other stuff. But, everybody does it. You just feel like you're the only one doing it at the time. And, he listened to all that. And so, yeah, I was very fortunate, man. I got to have a lot of good mentors along the way.
Yeah, dude, what a great organization you were drafted by to have the guys that they built that minor league system on. Obviously, you're very fortunate there. I think some of the things you're talking about, I know for me, I came out of college and I always look back and go, if I came out of high school, this industry would have ate me up and spit me out a year or two. I just felt like at 18, I don't know if I was mature enough to go play minor league baseball and leave home. Mentally, as an 18-year-old kid now playing baseball, for money, and you got $1 million signing bonus, all this stuff. But mentally, when did it start to click for you? Like, okay, I got to get a routine. I got to figure this out. Like, how did you not just go to the minor leagues and be like, oh man, this is too hard?
Well, I mean, I think I don't, just from what people have told me about college, I think kind of college and minor leagues are very similar, right? You have all these distractions outside of the game. You know, you have all these decisions that you can make to help or derail you in your life, right? Like, and I think that's just everyday life decisions as it is. You know, I think the big thing with it is just being comfortable, which I was an only child. So I was comfortable alone. You know what I mean? Like I was comfortable entertaining myself and making sure that I was okay. And so I think that helped, but it hindered me a little bit. But man, I was so lucky with the guys that I got drafted with that class. We spent 6 weeks together in Instructs down at Fort Myers. And so, you know, you have all these other 18-year-old kids, 19-year-old kids that are all together learning how to do this for the first time. And some of them are still friends of mine to this day. And, you know, you kind of go with them and you try to go down that right path of still having fun. Like it's still fun, but okay, this is my job now. And I think that's how I tried to look at it. Kind of what goes back to my parents, you know, like, hey, this is your job. Like you have to work at your job and become good at it. And like I said, man, I was fortunate where the way my mind works, I'm so routine oriented where it was, hey, I got to be at the field. I do this when I'm at the field. When I'm off the field, I go eat and I come back and I go to bed, you know, like, so it's just kind of like at an early age of doing that over and over and over again. And just trying to survive, really. I mean, I didn't have, you know, I keep saying it, but I was lucky that I got the signing bonus that I did, where I didn't necessarily have to worry about making $800 a month. You know, like I could afford my apartment, afford my phone bill, afford the things that I needed to be comfortable. You know, we're seeing some of these other guys that are struggling. I mean, they're using that $800 a month for everything that it's worth just to survive to the next month. So, you know, I think that would mentally have drained me a little bit if I didn't have that security blanket. But you know, that I think that's a big part of it, man. It's just having that financial stability too, where you're able to do your work, but enjoy your life as well.
Yeah. Did any of those guys, you talked about that class you were drafted with and how close you was, any other guys in that class make the big leagues?
A few. Brandon Moss was one.
Oh yeah. Mossy's the best.
Yeah. I'm trying to think who else was in there. Charlie, I don't know if he was a 02 draft, but we were all kind of together. Guys that like I played with that at an early age that helped me with. Kason Gabbard was one. He got in the big leagues a little bit. Daniel Murphy. Yeah,
Daniel Murphy. Wow.
David Murphy.
David Murphy. Yeah, David still a good player. Played with Texas for a while.
Yep. He was in that trade for Gagne in 08. And he played a while in the big leagues. He was with me there. Pedroia was an 03 draft, but we all went up together. Hanley Ramirez.
Dude, how was Petey as a minor league teammate?
Oh, dude. So we're in the Florida State League, grinding, sweating our what's off, and
balls off. Yeah.
This guy shows up. He's the second round pick. He's 5'0". Shows up. We're in the middle of the season. I mean, we've been grinding all year, and he gets into the clubhouse. He'll introduce himself, and literally like 2 days later, he's like, "I'm just gonna let you guys know it's gonna be a short stint for me. I'll be in the big leagues by the end of this year." And I don't know why they sent me to A-ball. Like you guys are garbage. I should be playing, AA, at least AA, playing shortstop. We had Hanley Ramirez, who was the number one prospect in the world at shortstop. And he's like, yeah, I should be playing shortstop. I hit rockets. I don't know why I'm here. I was just like, bro, this is a special human being. Oh, Papelbon. Was another one.
Pap was on those teams too.
Yeah, Manny Del Carmen.
Yes.
So not necessarily the same draft, but we all came up together. Played. I played with Manny from 03 till he got to and then in the big league. Same thing with Pedroia. Played with him the whole way up. Papelbon the whole way up when Pap was a starter. So like I had a group of guys that we had success together, and moved along together. And I think that's, another way to help guys, get to the next level and succeed. You've got comfort. You're not just the only guy there, amongst other people that, you're trying to be friends with.
So with that group of guys, I know one of the most special things is, when you get the call that you're coming up to the show. What was the call like for you?
So like in 2006, when I got called up for the first time, it was weird because not all those guys were there, and I was on a very veteran AAA team, and was really, they babied me, and I had us on a pitch count and all that stuff. So Pedroia was there, but all the, like Pap and Manny were already up in the big leagues, so I didn't have that. But I remember Ron Johnson, who was our AAA coach.
Oh, the best.
Yeah. Called me in and, in typical Ron Johnson fashion, told me I was going to the big leagues with dip falling out of his mouth. And he's like, well, kid, you're going up. Have fun. Like one of those. And there, it was awesome.
So you were in Pawtucket.
I was in Pawtucket. So it was easy. Like I went up there. The better part of the story is how naive I was to the situation where I get called up and I pitch it was supposed to be the first game of a doubleheader, and it only being one game. But it's a Saturday, and the team's leaving on Sunday to go to Minnesota, and then Atlanta for a road trip. And so I literally, I'm walking in to do my interview after the game, went 4+ or 5, gave up 5, got a no decision, and here comes Tito, and I'm like, hey Skip, I don't know how to ask this, but my apartment's in Pawtucket. Do I need to like go pack? Because if so, I got to drive back tonight and, be back to the hotel tonight so I can get up and be on time for the game tomorrow. And he looks at me and he's like, yeah, go get your shit. What are you doing? Like, nobody told you? I was like, no, I thought I was just pitching one game. He's like, no, get your shit and let's go. So I was like, all right. So
you're actually part of the team. You're actually part of the team.
Yeah. Next thing you know, I'm on a show plane to Minnesota with the team, and then watched Johan Santana punch out 16 on Monday night in the Metrodome. And I was like, oh God, this is how it is? This is what I got to do?
So that changeup was freaking dirty.
Oh man. I sat next to Alex Cora, and he called every pitch because, Alex was the best at picking up the
the best.
That. He's like, all right, here comes his changeup, fastball, the whole game, and punched out 16. It was unbelievable.
Even when you know it's coming, you can't hit it. When somebody's on the mound, even when you know it's coming, it's big league pitching, you ain't hitting it. Yeah, it was
impressive.
I remember Jim Leland came in 2000. We were with the I think Johan was with the Twins at the time. He came into our hitters meeting, and he's like. And we were back and forth with them when I was with the Tigers with 1 and 2. And so we were coming down the stretch, and comes in the hitters meeting. He's like, men, just know that you're going to look like a 3-year-old a couple times tonight out there. He goes, that changeup's going to embarrass you tonight. You're going to be embarrassed 1 to 2 pitches in a bat. Yep. You just got to keep grinding. He's like, you just got to keep going. You can't worry about the crowd and what everyone's booing you because you look like an asshole. He's like, just stay with it. This guy will give you. And it was just so funny. I remember thinking, wow, you got Leland coming in here telling us that Santana is going to make us look, and he does. Then you go out there, and your first at bat, you swing and miss so far on your front leg. The ball, Bugs Bunny, you've swung and missed by 20 feet, and you look around like, that's embarrassing. And he's like, see, I told you.
Yeah, man. He was something special for a while there. I mean, for a long time. He was. So, Johnny, for you come up in 2006. You have some success. And then at the end of that season, I believe it's coming into spring training, or you talked about it earlier, but you get diagnosed with lymphoma, right? You all of a sudden, can you take us back to that time and, when what you were thinking when all this is happening to you? Well, it was the end of 2006, and I thought I had all these symptoms that I didn't know were symptoms at the time. Looking back on it, I lost some weight, and I was just like, well, maybe it's just being in the big league, stress, whatever. Right. I couldn't eat enough food. Like my metabolism was going through the roof on that. It's having some back pain, which ended up being because of one of my enlarged lymph nodes was putting pressure against anyway. But yeah, at the end of 06, found that out and, went home. Well, I did one treatment at Dana-Farber in Boston and then went home to Fred Hutch and did the remaining of my treatment. And by, I want to say it was the middle of December, I found out I'd gotten through 4 treatments, I'd gotten my scan and was cancer free. Finished that, did 2 more treatments. And then, my hard-headed self, I was at spring training on February 1st, ready to, thinking that I was going to make the team out of spring weighing, 185 pounds I know I got no hair now, but I had no eyebrows. Like there was no hair growing on this body at all. Yeah. Like I looked bad. So it to go back to what you're talking about, the organization, the first class organization, the way they treated or helped me get through all that. And then the process coming back of, like I said, me being hard headed, thinking I was going to make that team. And Tito and John Farrell and even John Henry and all the other guys, Theo, that were involved with it, really helped me slow down enough to where I didn't hurt myself. That I think that's where ultimately would have gone is I wasn't ready to do what I needed to do to perform and succeed at that level. And so, they handled it so well. And then through that, I got to meet, the positive of the negative. If I got to meet a lot of great people through that whole experience.
Yeah, John, I had stage 4 melanoma cancer when I was 26 years old. Okay. I remember being like, I'm 26 years old. I'm in the best shape I've ever been in my life. You were what, 22 at the time? And you were a world-class athlete at that time. And you're trying to become a great professional athlete. Were you more afraid, or did you go hardcore into attack mode going, fuck this, not me? This doesn't fit who I am and what I want to do.
So the story behind that is I was because of my back pain. So I had gotten the full story. I got into an accident driving to the game. I was pitching that night against the Yankees and I got rear-ended. Next day, woke up, had this really bad back pain. Thought it was just because of the accident and never went away. Found out through that I had the lymphoma. And so I'm sitting in the hospital bed in Mass General. And the weird part about lymphoma is it's a blood cancer, right? So your white and red blood cells are supposed to be, bouncing all over the place. Well, mine weren't really doing that. And that's where we ended up in the hospital bed with our team doctor, the infectious disease guy, which is kind of, I think, a little more scary than the oncologist standing next to him. So I'm like, Jesus, I got some weird, I don't know, weird disease from somewhere we don't know, like what's going on. And so they did an biopsy. There we go. Thanks, Case.
No problem.
They did that and found out. So the oncologist comes back in. And so my parents had gotten some food, and I was like, well, you're here, so I know what it is. And he's like, well, do you want me to wait for your parents? I was like, no, like, let's go. Let's talk about this. And he, through that conversation, basically told me, he's like, hey, listen, if somebody held a gun to your head and said, you have to pick a cancer that we're going to put in your body right now, he's like, this is the cancer you would want.
Wow.
And that's, 17 years ago. And they were at like a 98% cure rate then, so that's all I heard. And for the longest time, I told people, I said, I didn't even know I couldn't have told you the actual name of what cancer I had for probably 6-7 years after the fact, because I didn't want to know it. I didn't care. All I heard was that. And so then it was like, all right, what do we need to do? How fast do we need to do it? And let's just because now all I'm thinking about is next season.
All right.
Like, am I going to be, the hard-headed once again of don't actually accept what the hell's going on. And I'm starting to think, well, okay, if I need 6 treatments at the minimum, that puts me at this date. If we start at this date, which then gives me a month for, like this stupid stuff. But to answer your question, yeah, I mean, once I heard that, it was, let's go. Let's let's do this. Let's figure it out. And the shitty part about cancer, right, is you put all these drugs into your body that don't make you feel any better.
Right. They make you feel sick. That's the weirdest thing is like you start feeling sickness that you never know you could even feel.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like the way I describe to people, it's not like you have the flu and you get some Theraflu and you feel better in 2 or 3 days. Like this is, 3 months of feeling like dog shit, like you feel terrible. And you have to believe that these drugs are working, until you go back for that scan of, okay, well, hopefully this worked, and so that's, I think, the really hard part. And that's where cancer messes with you mentally, because you feel worse to feel better, hopefully at the end. And you just have to keep that positive, man. Like you got to be positive through the whole process. It's so hard to do. But you got to try to be there as best you can.
Dude, well, first off, talk about a positive, having a negative turn into a positive. You and Farah are very, you have a cancer foundation, right? You've given a lot back to kids with cancer and all that stuff. Can you just talk about that a little bit, Johnny? Like, it's kind of become a big part of your life's work.
Well, it's not only, the foundation has become a big part of us, but like kind of the slogan of the whole thing has become, I guess, like a rallying cry, not only for cancer patients, but for myself and just life. So we started a foundation back in like 2011, I believe is the year we did it, called Never Quit, NVRQT. And we wanted to, I think having the experience I did, I wasn't necessarily a kid, but I was a younger adult. And with that, kids kind of get with the treatment, with the research and development of drugs and so forth, kids kind of get left behind in that pool there. So we found that out, and we decided that that's the route we wanted to go. We wanted to get more research going, because if we don't have research, we don't have cures. And so through that whole thing, same thing, man, got to meet a lot of awesome people doing this, a lot of awesome kids. One of the best things that we came up with this whole thing was, instead of seeing, which I have to preface, I hate hospitals. I hate hospitals when I was in them. I hate hospitals having to go to them. So we wanted to bring the kids to us, and what better avenue to do than have them come to batting practice. So what we would try to do is, in all these visiting cities, which by 2019, thank goodness we did it before, all the COVID stuff, we got all 30 ballparks where we had kids come out and be a part of, a game for a day. So they got to come to batting practice. Most of them didn't care about me. They wanted to meet the visiting guy or the home team guy. So we, through connections, through people, we would always have one home team guy come over and say hello during their batting practice. And then we would come out there and do our thing. So it was awesome to be a part of. And then we got to do a Never Quit night, which was unbelievable to have people tell stories and get together and raise money for these kids. And hopefully, what we would try to tell people is, even if you give $1, that $1 could potentially fund some sort of research that then comes up for a cure for some form of childhood cancer. So, like I said, man, through negative stuff, we got to do a lot of positive and meet a lot of awesome people and a lot of awesome kids. And it's hopefully we're trying to figure out a way now that we can continue to do something with this, and still kind of keep it out there.
Is there a place to donate, Johnny? Where could our listeners donate if we wanted to?
The website we're on Facebook. So that's one way of doing it. And I am not the most technically savage perfect person in the world. So
obviously.
Yeah. So you're gonna have to forgive me on that one, but yeah, we have nvrqt.org is our website. And then, through that, which was really cool, what we did too. And obviously with the COVID stuff, it got a little harder, but, we had Never Quit baseballs that I would sign. And if somebody made a donation, you could send that baseball to somebody, whether it be, a child that's actually going through it or just a friend or whatever. So, we've got some cool stuff on there, some cool ideas, and hopefully, we can continue to put up some money for this.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. One of the stories that I don't know if everyone knows this, but I was there when it happened, was Anthony Rizzo, who obviously became one of your big time teammates, is a great friend of yours when you guys were with the Cubs, but he came up with the Red Sox. And I remember in 2008 when I believe he came to the clubhouse because he was going through some cancer stuff too, and he wanted to meet you. Yeah. Right? You're the guy he wanted to meet because he, obviously it's a scary time for him. It was a scary time for you. Can you talk about that a little bit? Like meeting Riz for the first time when he was I think he was an A-ball player in the minor leagues for the Red Sox, but I remember you having this conversation with him in Boston.
Yeah. And he, if you get to talk to him, he'll still take credit for the no-hitter. I met with him like 3 days before I threw my no-hitter. So he's like, he keeps telling me, he's like, you're welcome for that, by the way.
That's so great. Typical Riz.
But no, man, it was, kind of crazy how life comes full circle, right? Like you meet this A-ball kid who's got, luckily I say luckily at this, when I got diagnosed with mine, I was in the big leagues. I had big league insurance. I had big league help. I had all these people around me to help, right? Where Riz is an A-ball and I'm sure those bills weren't cheap and hopefully, all that anyway. But, I think the biggest thing from not only getting to talk to Riz and him listening to me, but it was his parents, I think, more so benefited from that conversation than Riz. Just going back to like when my parents went through it, they benefited a lot more from conversations than I did. And so it was a really cool experience to get to meet him. And then I want to say I didn't see him again until 2014. And I don't know what all-star game it was for him, but it was all-star game in Minneapolis. And I ran into him and he came up and gave me a big hug. And, it was kind of the beginning of that move to Chicago, I guess, more or less. But no, man, like just a connection that I always have with him. And, looking back, I'm obviously more proud of what he does off the field with his foundation and, kind of the man he's become and all that stuff. I got to see it kind of firsthand, him grow up and do all that. And so he's an awesome human being, a good friend. And like I said, man, it's just crazy how things happen for a reason and you get, kind of intertwined in your life. So
that's a crazy story, man. That is so cool. And you guys are both doing unbelievable things, with cancer research and development and stuff. So you come back in 2007, the middle of the year. I think like it's great that Theo and those guys kind of pulled the reins back on you, because I know you were looking to go full steam ahead. Yeah. But you get back to the big leagues. You have some success. I kind of want to fast forward a little bit in this because you guys win the World Series in 2007, but you pitch Game 4, right? In Colorado, you pitched the clinching game. What was that like for you, man? Like when before that first pitch of Game 4, when you're on the mound and you're like, wow, what was going through your head?
Oh, bro, I was a nervous wreck. I didn't sleep. You wake up and you go get breakfast and you're trying to just be normal, right? Like you're trying not to think about the magnitude of what's about to go down, like that's, I think, a big thing that you have to try to do is kind of downplay everything. And I just remember like sitting in the hotel room and I like had kind of the nerve, like the shakes, just like you were cold, like I couldn't stop. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with me? And so like I remember that. And then, you know what, man, like I remember, because I walked to the field that day because we stayed at the real close hotel, across the way from the field. So I walked over there and I just remember walking in the door and seeing, this is when you're young and you don't have to get there 5 hours for the game to get loose. Like you can just show up and pitch, like,
right.
Yeah. Hey, give me a towel.
Couple shoulder rolls. Yeah. Shoulder rolls. Like I'm ready.
Yeah. What's rolling out? I don't need to roll out. What are you talking about? Stretching? What's that?
Cold tub, hot tub. I don't need those.
So they tell you like you can't show up later or earlier than 2 hours or later than 2 hours before the game. You have to be there before 2 hours before the game. Like that's the bare minimum. And so I would walk in there 2 hours before the game. 7:10, I was there at 5:10. Like, here we go, guys. I'm ready. I walked in and I just remember seeing the guys and like kind of a calmness came over me. because I think just being there, now you're back to that routine of what you need to do to get ready. Right. And so now I kind of fell into that. And then I kind of, more or less, you kind of black out, like you kind of, it's all like out of body stuff. Right. One of the coolest things. So we're pitching and Tulo comes up his first at bat, and they start doing that Tulo chant. The Tulo, the whole crowd, 1,000 people. And I'm like, this is awesome. Right? Like, I'm supposed to be trying to get this guy out. I'm like, this is awesome. This is the coolest thing I've ever heard. And so
oh my God.
I think that's the stuff I remember more so than anything.
Where you like, get back, you like, focus. I got Tula whiskey chant going on. It's unbelievable.
I don't get this guy. I got Matt Holliday, who looks like he's going to kill everybody if you look at him wrong. But no, man, like I just remember that, I remember like stupid stuff about the game. I remember throwing a heater down on the way to Todd Helton, and he grunted like he was lifting 600 pounds. He hit an absolute rocket to Manny and left. And I was like, oh God, don't throw that pitch again.
Don't throw that pitch again. Slider next time. Slider.
Yeah. Like, I mean, just stupid stuff about the game, right? Like just little things here and there about it, but like not really understanding the magnitude after it happened of what, just kind of transpired on that whole deal. I really don't think it sinks in until opening day of the next year, right? Where you finally get something for it. It's not like Little League, you take your trophy home with you, like you got to give that trophy to the owner, and he gets to take it home for however long. Like you sit there for 5 months waiting on your prize kind of. But yeah, man, I mean, I think I tell people too, man, about that game. Like, Josh Beckett was the best pitcher on the planet that year. I know he finished second in the Cy Young to CC, but he playoffs. I mean, he was unhittable, and he was going game 5, so it was like I didn't want to screw it up. The biggest thing the biggest thing I tell people is I go, the worst thing that could have ever happened is me go 2 innings and our bullpen is screwed for the next game. Right. Like, I was fortunate enough to get to into the 6th and kind of hand it over from there. But like Josh is going game 5, up 3-1, if we lose that game. So that kind of helps, ease my mind a little bit behind that. So, but yeah, man, I mean, just nervous wreck before you even get there. Crazy.
I want to stay right there with Beckett, because I know Beckett was a big part of your routine, a big part of kind of the pitcher you became. Like, what did Josh mean to you and your development as a pitcher?
Well, I mean, I'm sure he hated it when it happened because Tito called me and him into the office in spring training, and I think it was 2006. And, he was like, Josh, you're probably not going to like this, but John, you follow him around, whatever he does, you do. And so like, I was a puppy dog from then on out. Like, dude, we played long toss together. We ran together. We lifted together. I mean, everything. And he, like you said, him and then the next year in 2007, when we got John Farrell, were like really, really big. Another name, Donnie Coxtein, the sports.
Oh, Donnie's the best. DK's the best.
Yeah. So
nothing like have a sports psychologist on the bench with you. I come back after times like, Donnie, I don't know what the hell I'm doing out here. Can you help me out? My anxiety's off the charts. He's like, breathe, box breathe.
Yeah, man. I mean, but like having what better resources do you have right there? As a 23-year-old kid, 22-year-old kid. Yeah. You got Josh Beckett, MVP of the World Series. You got John Farrell, who ended up, really helping me. Tito and Donnie Coxtein, all like my disposal of buying into helping me succeed. Right. Like, so you have those guys, and those 3 guys really helped, implement the daily structure of what I did to prepare for a start. And to be able to do it at a younger age too, you're not set in any ways. Right. Like you're a blank sheet of paper, like, here, tell me what I need to do, and to those guys' credit, man, they were honest with me at all times. Donnie helped me with the number grid that I still did to my last start.
What was that? What was that? I remember this. What was that? The number grid.
So the big thing with it is the point behind it is to try to take each individual pitch as an event, right? So you have a number grid on a 3x5 card, and all the numbers, it goes 00 to 99, and they're all jumbled up. So you have a minute. So the way I did it was I had 3 minutes of cards, and one was up by 2, one was down by 3, one was up by 1, starting at different numbers. And then for the 4th and 5th minute, you had distractions in the background doing the same thing. And so one was like cars honking, basically like being in New York, somebody yelling, cars honking, trains going by, planes flying by. And then the 5th minute was you had music in the background. And so it's a hard game, because if you're looking for, let's just say, the number 2, and you're going by 2, and you see 4 over here in the corner, you can't pay attention to 4. Like, you're not looking for, so I'm not looking for my 0-1 pitch. I'm looking for my 0-0 pitch. Yeah. I gotta start on 0-0. What am I doing here? I'm not worried about 0-1 until I get there. So like, it tries to help you along that route of, what am I trying to do right now? What am I trying to find? What am I trying to throw? Okay. I executed. I found 2. Now where do I go? Now where's 4? And obviously we're humans, and we're all going to see 4 over here in the corner. So you cheat a little bit, but the idea behind it is to focus on the task at hand. So I started doing those with Donnie in 2008. I think we started it in spring training, and we would do a card and we talk about something. We talk about the game before, we talk about the next game coming up. What did we do? What did I do today to prepare for this start? And then do another card. And then that morphed into, cause Donnie, left, and now you're on your own. Now you got to figure out your own routine. And then that morphed into an audio recording that I had that actually Bob Tewksbury, who's another great sports psychologist.
Tewks is great too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, talk about guys you had at your disposal. Donnie Coxey and Bob Tewksbury, in my opinion, 2 of the best mental coaches in all of sports. Donnie's, I think, still with the Dallas Mavericks. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, but Tewks has also wrote a book, and that's amazing that you went from Donnie. Oh, hey, Tewks, how about you?
Yeah. So I went from Donnie, when Donnie left, to like a few years of like gray area, right? Like,
right.
What am I doing? Like, I'm still trying to do these on my own with my own deal and whatever. Well, then Tewks gets there in, I think, 13, and bro, I'm struggling. Middle of the season, struggle bus in 13. And I'll never forget it. We were in Oakland, and I was pitching the next day, and I go, Tewks, man, I need, like, we got to do something. He's like, all right, meet me in the visiting clubhouse guy's office in like the 3rd inning. So I go up there. He's like, hey, have you done visualization? And I said, not really, Tewks. I said, no, I try to visualize, but it doesn't get me anywhere. He's like, all right. So he walks me through this whole visualization thing, right? The going to sleep that night, to waking up, eating breakfast, getting to the ballpark, the whole thing. And I would love to tell you I sat there and threw 9 shutout, but I didn't. I threw, I think, 6, 3 runs. I got a no decision, but It was like I was out there and I was in it. Like, I was there. So from that point forward, he made me the audio recording, and he would do the same thing. It would be the same steps. Obviously he left out that we were pitching in Oakland and whatever, but I would throw, 3 batters with nobody on, 3 batters with somebody on, and then kind of finish it with some positive words at the end. So my routine went from my cards, I do that takes about 8 minutes. And then I go, and Boston had a sleep room. So I'd go lay down in the sleep room. You end up taking about a 20 or 30 minute nap, boom, wake up. You've got all this visualization in your mind. Now you're ready you've almost thrown 2 innings before you even get out there. Right. So that was part of my routine from 13, literally the same audio recording from 13. I listened to it my last start in 2021, the exact same. Wow. So the day of, about 2 hours, about 2.5 hours before my start, I would do that.
Wow. Johnny, do you think that turned, like, your 2013 season definitely turned in the right direction, and then you had a great postseason? Would you attribute that right there to getting you where you needed?
100%. Like it just, and also too, man, like, it's the same thing in life. Like, you try something new and it works for you. It's like, okay, You know, like I could have gone out and shit the bed and who knows, I may never have done it ever again. You know what I mean? Like, but it necessarily for me wasn't the results as it was how present I felt in the game. Like I felt like I had been in the situation before the situation happened. So I think that extra, that almost that extra sense of being even more prepared, you know, not only physically, but I was mentally more prepared that night, you know, than in previous starts. So yeah, I mean, from that point forward, I kind of took off. And then with that comes confidence, right? Like you go out there and you're 2-1. And when you're not feeling well, that 2-1 gets hit really hard. When you're feeling well, you basically can go here and they pop it up, you know, right? Like, so it helped build kind of that confidence within. And I got on a little bit of a run that ended up kind of carrying over into the postseason. And I mean, that was pretty fun too. So
yeah. Well, I want to stay there with the postseason because I mean, that 2013 team, bro, like there was some, I don't know if degenerate's the word or characters.
Characters are the nicer word.
It fits it perfectly.
Yeah, maybe, but yeah, there was like Napoli, Gomes, Dempster, you know, even Pedroia at times. I mean, like so many guys. There's so many characters. Maybe characters is the word that I'm looking for. Like, you know, just some awesome dudes that are some really good players. But it just seemed like, man, you guys just kept rolling. Rossi was on that team. Big Papi doing his thing. Like so many good people on that team can you take us back to that run, dude? Like, especially the playoff run when you guys got to the postseason, you know, what was that? What was it like being on that team? And am I correct saying there were some characters on the team?
Oh, beyond characters, man. Like beyond. But like, so the crazy part about that season, so they make all these moves in the offseason, right? And you know, you're looking at it going, man, these are some great players kind of towards the end. You know what I mean? Like, we're bringing in veteran guys.
Lackey.
Lackey, Victorino, Dempster, you know, all these guys, right? And, you know, you're sitting there going, well, you know, if we can stay healthy, we should have a good team. Like, we should be competitive. And they're saying, oh, we'll be below 500. Fast forward to spring training, dude. I remember the very first day that the full team was there. Johnny Gomes walks in. And as the door swings open, he goes, well, boys, say hello to the 2013 World Series champs.
No way, dude.
And dude, you know Boston. Like, this is Boston.
Oh, yeah.
Like, everybody kind of looks around like, I don't think you can say that here. Like, what are you talking about? So him and Knapp and Pedroia and all these guys, man, they start, like, bringing us together. Like, we start immediately in spring training, man. We had a tight-knit group down, all these guys. And you know, we had a lot to prove too. Like the guys that were there in 12, you know, obviously the weird stuff that happened in 11 and, you know, I still had stuff hanging over my head with all that and lack and, you know, 12, we stunk. I mean, we were the worst team in baseball.
Is that Bobby V year?
Yeah, that was the Bobby V year. So
disaster.
We stunk then. And then, you know, now like coming in off a down year, like have a lot to prove and like all this stuff. Right. And, so you have these characters come in and now all of a sudden stuff's fun. Like we were the last place team and we're acting like we just won the World Series, you know? And so like, but like to go back to like Johnny, I remember Johnny being like, hey, you know, make sure you guys pick out your duck boats. Like make sure you get the right one that you want. And that started from day one, dude. And so you have this positive vibe immediately. Right. And then obviously the Boston Marathon stuff happened. You know,
that's that year.
Right. And then that not only brings us closer, that brings the city closer. David gets, you know, on the mic and says what he says, which is incredible. And then, you know, we start getting on the run and we're playing well and we're vibing. And, you know, a personal story within that was like we were talking about when I was struggling. And this, I'll remember this until the day I die. And I told Riz this in 16. And Johnny, I was sitting there talking to Johnny. I'm like, dude, you faced me a lot, man. Like, what? Help me. Like, why am I struggling? What am I doing? And so he tells me, we go through that whole thing. And at the end, he goes, hey, bro, listen, you realize everything's already been played out, right? Like everything in our destiny is already played out. All we have to do is sit back and push play and watch. I was like, we're on the airplane, like flying somewhere. I don't remember where we were. And he tells me this. I mean, he just blew my mind. Like, hey man, listen, like you can't change what's going to happen. Right. Like, so stop trying to change something that you can't change. Go push play, show up and pitch. It's already happened. The game's already happened. You just got to do it. Wow. I'm like, damn, dude, like that
and
really
was that Lackey or was that John Farrell?
That was Johnny Gomes.
Johnny Gomes. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So he tells me that, man, and that like completely reset me, gave me a different feeling, you know, like when you're out there on the mountain, you're trying so damn hard, like, hey man, this has already happened. Like,
right.
If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Like, let's go. And then you start attacking, you start doing that. But then it started like from there, man, like we started that's where I learned about being like a teammate, about caring for one another, about paying attention to the game, learning the game. Why did the manager make this decision? Why did he do this? And, you know, we had John Farrell was our manager. Torey Lovello was our bench coach. And then we had 7 other managers on the bench. You know, you had Rossi, you had Gomes.
That's right. Rossi was on that team too. That's right.
Yeah. And Dempster, like you had all these older guys that have been around for so long. And like John would tell Torey, like, hey, go tell this guy to do that. And Johnny Gomes would go to Torey and go be like, no, we're not doing that. Like, this is what we need to plan for, whatever. Torey would go back to John would be like, yeah, okay. And then we would do this. And then we would do that. And, you know, whatever. It was just like, but there was no, there was no resentment from John Farrell doing that. You know what I mean? Like he understood where our team was and what we needed to do. And our guys understood what John Farrell was trying to do. And there's the line of communication. And it was just, so man, like we all got, like, it was just a group from day one that meshed, that played well together. And then at the end, we came out on top. And man, it's like the year that I always look to when I talk about fun, when I talk about camaraderie, when I talk about like just the dudes. Like, you don't have to have the most talented team to win. We weren't the most talented team, but we had heart. We had guys that cared more. We had good veterans, and we played our dicks off every day. You know what I mean? Like it was every single day the guys played, and it was. I mean, this was back when you could slide into second.
Right.
And I remember, and not to, this isn't a bad mouth to Daniel Nava or anything, but
no,
he went into like, it was kind of one of those plays where he wasn't going to get to second. So he kind of just peeled off, you know, and he comes in the dugout and Johnny Gomes walks down there and he goes, if you don't throw that guy into the green monster next time, I'm throwing you into the green monster. You know, like one of those.
Yeah, like set the tone. Yeah.
But like respect, like it wasn't like degrading or anything like that. It was just, hey man, we play a certain style of baseball here, and we understand that you weren't going to get there. Like it was one of those, you know what I mean? Like just the easy double play, hit hard, whatever. But it was just kind of the point of the matter of what our guys tried to play every single day, of this hard nose, we're in your face, we're coming at you, you know, style of baseball.
God, I love that team, dude. I was at all those games working for MLB Network, and just, you know, watching you guys play, it just looked like, wow. For all the people that say chemistry doesn't matter, that's a bunch of bullshit. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, chemistry does matter. The energy of a Johnny Gomes coming in and saying, all right, boys, get your duck boats. Let's go. Like from day one, like that stuff matters. It matters because it's such a marathon. It's such a grind of a year, 162 games. And if you're going to postseason, it's 100, whatever, 80 some games. Dude, you gotta have guys that are out there grinding, good players but that want to be there, that kind of love each other. And you know, that team for me was that.
Well, and it's not always going to be guys that you're friends with for the rest of your lives either.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it's when you get 25 guys in a room, not everybody's going to like each other, regardless of how good, bad, or indifferent you are. Right? Like that's the nature of the world. Like you're not all going to get along, but there's the respect and there's their effort. Like, I know I'm going to give you everything I have. Doesn't mean we're going to go get a beer after the game.
Right.
You know, like you don't have to have that, but the chemistry on the field has to mean something.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, man, we may not all go out and get a beer after the game, but when we're at the field, when we're here to work, you're my brother. Let's roll.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a difference in that, you know, and to the people that say that chemistry doesn't matter, they have never been in a clubhouse. Then it does matter.
It does matter. Exactly. Dude, when I think of that World Series too, I think of one of the greatest hitting expeditions we've ever seen what Big Papi put on. Like you could have thrown a BB up there and he would have hit one, 9,000 feet.
Yeah.
Two parts on that. Watching him do what he did in the 2013 World Series, what was that like? And also, of all the years playing with Big Papi, do you have a story that, that still sits with you that maybe you tell your buddies?
Really, he hit that entire playoffs, like it was, I mean, if you think about like, we come in against the Tigers and the Tigers are supposed to steamroll us. And we lost 1-0 to Anibal Sanchez, who punched out like 16 in game 1. And then game 2, we're down, and Papi is probably the only guy that I've ever seen in my career where the stadium stops when he comes out of the dugout just to go on deck, like not even to go hit yet. Like people are watching him swing on deck; they're not even watching Pedroia. Like they don't care what he does; they're watching what David does. And he comes out, and I'll never forget it. It was me, Peavy, and Ross sitting on that little perch where Tito used to sit. And bases are loaded, or it wasn't bases loaded yet, but he comes up and he goes, if he brings in Benoit, it's the biggest mistake he's ever done. And he walks out on deck, and we're like sitting here going, what? Like, what do you mean? And he tells it later. He would just sit on his changeup, and that's where he hit the homer off of him to the grand slam to, I think, either tie it or put us up. And that's the one where Torrey Hunter went over.
Torrey went over the fence. Yeah.
So like hits a grand slam. And when he went up to bat, Peavy sat there and goes, dude, if he hits a grand slam, we're winning the series. And sure, I mean, boom, hits a grand slam. We win the series, we move on. And then he like just carried that over into the World Series. Wow. And just put on an absolute display of hitting. But I mean, I think the most famous story from David, and this is how awesome he is the Pedroia doesn't know his name, story. I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Yeah, no, tell it.
And so I forgot who we were playing, and Pedroia was on deck or something. A play was made over by the on deck circle. Pedroia was standing there. David was standing there for some reason, and the catcher goes, "Hey, Dustin, how you doing?" And Dustin's like, "Good, man. How are you?" And David comes up to him afterwards. He goes, "Hey, what did he call you?" And Dustin kind of looks confused, like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "What did he call you?" He goes, "We call me Dustin." And he goes, "Why did he call you that?" And I mean, you guys know Petey. Yeah. And he looks at David. And he goes, "David, what the fuck's wrong with you? Nobody call me. That's my name." He goes, "No, it's not." He goes, "Yes, my name is Dustin Pedroia. I've only had thousands of at bats. I hit for you thousands of times. Now batting number 15, Dustin Pedroia." He goes, "Oh shit, man! I thought your name was Pee Wee." Like, what? So 1 year, hey, dude, 1 year. I don't know if it was a year you were there or not, but remember, like he wouldn't wear his hat, and his hat would always sit in the dugout, like on the top, on the right. Thing. And if you put your hat down or whatever, you're like flipping through hats, and I flipped through it one day. Mind you, his head's like that big.
He's got like a 9. Yeah.
On the bill of his hat was everybody's number and name.
Oh, wow, no way.
Yeah.